DJ General Mills.
Double XL said, pick 3 of any one of these mixtapes or albums from 2014. The rest of them you got to get rid of, right? Now, there are, 25 records here. I see Ty Dolla $ign, Run the Jewels, Rich Gang, Travis Scott, Migos, DJ Mustard, Wiz Khalifa, J. Cole, YG, Rick Ross. There are a lot of artists from this 25 collective. I have probably heard majority of these, but some of the ones I haven't heard, I haven't heard. So it took me a while to think about just 3 that I could not live without, or 3 that I could not live without. And that's tough, because when you look at this entire list, think about 3 that you cannot live without. Honestly, I think my picks, I have to go back, but my picks for this were the Rich Gang album, J. Cole album, and YG. Let me explain. First of all, that YG album, My Crazy Life, that's at the bottom left, that album was probably that album is still considered kind of like a classical type of album. That's a classic album. Maybe not in the sense of Good Kid, Mad City, or if you want to go back as Reasonable Doubt or Illmatic, anything like that. It's not on that type of path, but that's definitely a classic album amongst the past 6 or 7 years. YG was at his best, I think, at that moment, and I think that's what catapulted him. That's what catapulted Mustard, because I had heard of YG 3-4 years ago, but that My Crazy Life, that was the version of him that was the most solidified. So that's what put it up for me. The J. Cole one, which is 2014 Forest Hill Drive, I think that as a collective was the best album overall for the year. Just when you remember that 2014, let me pull up the track list for this before we get too crazy, because that entire album was just dope. That's the one that had Wet Dreams on it, which was his single, which was a little weird. You remember listening to that on the radio. It's about, basically him losing his virginity, which is a wild radio record. But it had that on there. It had A Tale of Two Cities. It had GOMD, No Role Models, Love Yours, Note to Self. That was just concise. It was just honestly the best album overall. 13 tracks, in and out, replay value. That was a great album. So that was my pick. That was my personal pick. And then honestly, the one that's slept on the most is that Rich Gang album, which is my number. That was my number 3. Honestly, that might be my number 1. Rich Gang album might be better to me than 2014 Forest Hill Drive, just because as a DJ, I was playing those records. It had $1 Million. Was that one? No. Let me pull up the track list for this one, because this was the one with Thug and Rich Homie. Yeah, this was the one with Thug and Rich Homie. Got you. So it's Rich Gang The Tour Part 1. That's the one that had Javinci, War Ready, Tell 'Em, I'ma Ride, Milk Marie. Oh my gosh, I forgot all about these songs. Milk Marie was Beat It Up, I Know It. That entire album, man, that's a classic. I live in Atlanta. That's a classic album. I can go out at any point in time and hear that song, hear any one of them songs anywhere, especially Tell Me. Oh my gosh. Milk Marie was just the biggest song in the world at one point in time. Here, And that's how we got the Young Thug, who I consider a legend now. And that's how we got, you know, probably the peak of Rich Homie Quan, which, you know, we haven't heard too much about him, but he's been, you know, he's doing his life. He's living his life. So we haven't heard too much about Rich Homie Quan, but that peak version of Rich Homie was on this album. And Young Thug was really just starting to become Young Thug, because I think this was the year after Stoner came out. So people just thought he was just a one-hit wonder with Stoner. But he started to really like push up. He started to really become something. So I like that, man. I love this. I love this entire like thought process about which songs, which albums were great. QC No Label 2 was pretty good, but it wasn't better than the original No Label. But it was still good. The only reason I didn't choose Mastermind or the other Rick Ross project was just because I was only allowed 3. One of those probably would have been number 4. And then if I'm going with a 5, I probably would have put Future Honest up there, because that was from the Monster mixtape. It was on that 3 where he came out with Future came out with Monster, 56 Nights, and I can't think of the other one that was produced by Zaytoven. That had Real Sisters on it. But those 3, that was when Future became Future. But he wasn't like Future yet. Like Future High hadn't been born yet. He was just, you know, like astronaut status Future. He was still finding his tune. So that was just tough. But man, this was a great little argument that was all over the timeline. So man, I'm hoping that they do things like this, like, 'cause that was a great idea. That was a really great, like, just overall idea.
DJ General Mills.